So I was just thinking about talking about like being a lonely guy who doesn't really have too many friends or really any friends except for one best friend who I've had since childhood who lives in another state who I haven't seen in years. Who's still my best friend, but we just don't talk that much or anything anymore because he has a busy life and I don't really have a busy life, but yeah. Anyway, I was just thinking about how like if you're a lonely guy, like nobody really like fucks with you, you know? Not fucks with you, but like like other people have like problems to deal with. Like not personal problems. I mean like problems with other people. Like a pretty girl might have to get a restraining order against the guy who's like crazily obsessed with her, you know? If you're a lonely guy, you're never going to have to get a restraining order against anybody. And you're never going to have to like you're never going to have to like talk to anybody you don't want to. Typically. Although sometimes you might have to like at work, but like obviously, but even then, like people don't really talk to guys that much at work, as much as women at least. So if you're a lonely guy like me, like the one upside is that you don't really have that many like people problems. I don't mean like communication skills. I mean like, you know, like I just explained. Like you just typically are gonna just be alone. And that's it. I'm laughing because it's just that's the one good thing about being lonely and alone is that people don't really like go out of their way to talk to or mess with you usually. Unless you're like, I don't know, I guess unless you're like in like a bigger like city area and there's people like who view you as like weaker and want to bully you, or if you're like a kid on a playground or something, like getting bullied. Besides that, like I don't know, just for example, like nobody really like fucks with me, you know. I don't know. I mean, not that they couldn't. I don't even know who they would be. Like, no, there's nobody to fuck with me. I mean, except for, well, there's a whole city to fuck with me, I guess. But nobody really does, you know. I don't know. And I attribute that mostly to just being, you know, by myself. Like, if you're just lonely and you're by yourself all the time, then you don't form, like, relationships or interact with people that much. So nobody really knows you, so nobody really wants to fuck with you. Unless that's the reason they want to fuck with you. But, I don't know, for me it usually isn't, I guess, so far. I mean, so far, and I'm sure this will change eventually. Like, I'm sure somebody's gonna want to, like, eventually, like, get into a fight with me. Because that always happens eventually, I think, if you're a guy. Unless you're, like, an old man. But even then, sometimes. But it can go along, in a white society, like, you can go a long time without getting into a fight. In other societies, like fighting's more regular. So, like you go to South America and it's a little bit more common there. to get into a fight. But you go to any like northern country, like North America. Not that North America is a country, but you go to like a northern continent or like Australia, anywhere where there's a white population, and people don't really fight that much. So if you're like a lonely guy, like typically you're just on your own and nobody really fucks with you. That being said, I was bullied growing up and I got into a lot of fights growing up, so I know white people are definitely violent sometimes, but as you get older, like you learn what laws are and stuff, and then you don't get into fights. Because the penalties for fighting are pretty high. Like if you hit somebody in the face, you can get like 5 years in prison. Which is like a lot, in my opinion. But I guess it's not that like I don't know. It's a lot because life's short, but life isn't always that short though. You know, like you could live to be 80 years old. So 5 years isn't like your whole life. But that being said, like. The point of making this video is just to highlight how, like, if you're a lonely guy, like, you're just not gonna get into that much conflict. And not just conflict, but you're not gonna have to deal with what, like, certain women have to deal with, like restraining orders and just, like, crazy guys and suicide threats and, like, stalkers. Although I think guys have to deal with stalkers too. Sometimes. But at the same time, it just doesn't seem to like. I'm kind of speaking from experience, but I kind of know intuitively that like if you're a guy by yourself and you at least sort of look like you can handle yourself, typically you're not going to be fucked with, and you just don't run into like issues. I know the crime rate against men, like the violent crime rate against men is higher than with women, but it's still pretty low, except in like areas where there's like third world migrants who are illegals, like. And other minority groups and stuff. So, and white people are going to be a minority pretty soon too, by the way. Ugh. But anyway, my point was just, like I said, you just not gonna get fucked with too much if you're a lone guy who doesn't do anything but keep to himself. Which is the flip side of like a guy who is very outgoing and extroverted and maybe like gets into crime or even who is just successful, because you get a lot of drama with success. Unless you keep to yourself and your close friends and family, which I don't have much of. So, yeah. I really just have my mom and I guess my dad, but my dad's in another state too, like my best friend. Anyway, not sure what else to talk about. like yeah, just I don't know, just to reemphasize the point, like just like I just want, I guess I'll just talk about like my experience being a lonely guy. I don't know, I don't really jerk off anymore, so like I'm on NoFap, so yeah, I get hit on by women sometimes. I don't know why exactly. Like, I have a criminal background, which I probably shouldn't admit to be honest. But yeah, like I used to be a criminal. Technically, like I don't know, like morally, you could argue no, but technically yes. And what was I gonna say? Sorry, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I completely forgot what I was gonna say. I just spaced it. Like I was saying, I have a bit of a criminal background. Technically, not morally, arguably. And I really can't. I'm sorry that I completely just spaced what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, being a lonely guy. I have a bit of a criminal background, and oh yeah, okay. Women like typically like not typically, but like sometimes they'll hit on me. It's like women can sort of detect that you were like a criminal or that you are one, or that like because statistically women like criminals. You know, I I don't know how many guys I met in jail who had girlfriends or who were like talking to women like on the phones they had in jail. You know, and who just anyway, criminals do well with women usually, but not always. And yeah, it's kind of awkward to talk about that, like, criminals do well with women, but they typically do. And it's like women can detect that on me. I don't like carry a gun or anything, or I don't even carry a knife. Like I go like a pretty much just peaceful. But yeah, it's like they can like detect it on you. Like I don't know what I'm talking about exactly, but like maybe I just have like a certain like swag now. I haven't used the word swag in so many years. Does anybody even use the word swag? Well, basically the word swag used to mean like 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 swagger, you know, like if you're walking around like a certain way. I don't know, maybe I'm just moving around a certain way. I don't really know. I think I'm pretty fat, so yeah, I'm probably just wobbling, but anyway. So as a lonely guy who sometimes gets hit on by women, I don't know. I really don't know what to say. I've been going on for like 3 minutes not knowing what to say. Like, I don't know. It's just depressing being sort of like without a girlfriend, but like, I went to Starbucks the other day, and the girl behind the counter sort of flirted with me, sort of just had like a flirty like attitude about her. But, you know, she was using that flirty attitude on me. Or I don't really know what to call it, but like, you know, like she wasn't exactly flirting, but she was like sort of like being playful with me. And I really don't see why. I'm glad that she was, but I guess. But I'm not that attracted to women who, like, I was attracted to her, but I'm not that like into women who are just like openly like kind of slutty, you know? And she kind of gave off those vibes, but I don't know. She could have been a religious girl, but she probably wasn't. Because I've definitely met some women who come off as like not religious, but they are religious, and maybe they're not as religious as they should be. But anyway, I pretty much keep to myself, but I definitely have women attracted to me. Some women, not all women. Oh, a side note, I actually had a woman tell me that we should hump. She said we should hump, like kind of loudly in another cafe. And it was really awkward. So I just walked away and I went to the bathroom and I just... I don't know, I just took a piss, and then I went somewhere else, you know. I don't know. I'm kind of awkward about that, but it was also sort of an awkward statement, so I was just like, I'm socially aware enough that I know, like, that's an awkward thing to say. Anyway, I feel like I was, like, overly socialized as a kid. Here's another topic I could talk about, like, I feel like I was overly socialized when I was a kid. Because I'm really talkative sometimes, but I really don't think I'm naturally talkative, you know? Like, I think naturally I'm fairly, like, quiet. And I was definitely shy as a kid, but I had, like, a lot of friends, and the kids in my class when I was a kid, we all like talked to each other and stuff, and we were all like friends with each other. So even the kids that bullied me, eventually, like, I was friends with them for a while. After we eventually just like got over it, after I started winning fights, we got over it, and we were friends for a while. And so I got socialized pretty well as a kid. Like, yeah, so I can talk to people like fairly well usually, but not all the time. I don't know. Like, I think I'm naturally like pretty quiet. Like, I like solitude. But I don't really like hate people. I don't even really hate like normies or anything. I just sort of, I don't really like it when as a rule of thumb, I don't really like it when people are like loud or angry or aggressive, like towards me or around me. Like, it just makes me quiet. And I think that's because like my parents would argue the first like 4 years of my life. Like, they would argue a bit, and I remember they really made an effort not to argue after we moved to a nicer house. So it was always really quiet in the house after that, and it was just sort of like a nice environment. And so I'm not used to like yelling and angry people, which is probably why I crave solitude. But I also have like that, like I have enough muscle to say that I have like some alpha genetics, you know, like some warrior genetics or something. Like, I don't know, like I got enough muscle on me, I could probably make that claim. And I know that I have like a fighting spirit somewhat. Not all the time, and I definitely don't, I don't know, like, I'm not completely like a fearless warrior or whatever, I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that I don't know, I just, like, I got socialized as a kid, you know, which is good. It's just that I think I talk too much sometimes. Like my dad talks too much sometimes too, but my dad's just kind of like that though. Like, it's like he was socialized, but obviously, like, everybody gets socialized when they're a kid. But I don't know, he just learned it way too well or something. Anyway, I just talk like enough to like be on good terms with people. Like, people generally like me. Like if I choose to talk. Like, actually lately I haven't been talking as much. I think it just comes with age. You know, I'm 30 years old. Like, I don't know. You just, after so much loneliness, you just don't really want to be around people as much. Plus, I spent time in jail, and that was a lot of time around people. And sometimes I found myself thinking, hey, at least I'm around some guys who I can talk to, even though they weren't like really good guys to like be around. I could still talk to them and like have a conversation. So it was sort of like, not the opposite of, but it was like contradictory to what I usually knew from most of my 20s, which was just pure solitude, which I've kind of put myself in, but sort of didn't at the same time. It's just kind of how the 2010s were and how the 2020s are. Everybody just stays online and nobody really talks in real life anymore. But sometimes they do, but not very often. But in jail, like, it was like, you know, like I think I talked to everybody in jail. Even if they were like a bad criminal, I would just have a conversation. And no matter what they did, like, I just sort of had a conversation. And I didn't really know what, like, most of them had done or anything, so I don't know. Like, you could say just because you talk to them makes you a bad person, but I don't know, I just there wasn't anything else to do, so me being overly socialized, like, I went around and just talked to everybody. So yeah, I mostly talked to this one Asian dude who was not a good dude. He was a drug dealer, but I don't know. He had like a store there. Like, you know, he would buy a commissary and then sell it at like a higher price, but at the convenience of having it at any time during the week instead of just being able to buy it once a week through the commissary. And so I mostly just talked to him. I actually shouldn't say that. I didn't mostly talk to him. Like, I would talk to him throughout the day, just to get like commissary items and to have a spot to sit at and just some normalcy to the day. But he was kind of a bad guy. And I knew that talking to him, but I had to just kind of grit my teeth and talk to him. Because if you fight in there, you can get charged again. And then you spend more time in prison. And I didn't spend any time in prison because I took a plea deal for mental illness, but arguably I don't really have that bad of a mental illness because it doesn't affect me that much. But when it does, it's usually not very good. Like, I spent 5 months in a hospital last year, and so that wasn't good. But most of the time I'm fine. So even off meds, I've noticed that I'm usually fine. Because I spent some time off my medications. I take some meds for it. I spent some time off my medications like a few years ago when I went homeless, and I did fine there. I don't know. So it just kind of comes and goes. Like, I have schizoaffective disorder, so sometimes I see things that aren't there, and sometimes I hear things that aren't there, but it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't affect me that often. Anyway, in jail, though, it's like being overly socialized saved me from getting into any fights. Because I would just talk to people and everybody liked me. Not liked me like in a gay way, but everybody just kind of didn't mind me or whatever. Except for one guy who was like, got angry at me once, but that was just because I interrupted him during a phone call. And you gotta be careful in jail. Hopefully you never go there, but yeah. And another thing that happened in jail was that I got kind of fat. Like I went up to 220 pounds. From like 190-ish. And that's what happens to most people in jail because they give you a bunch of crappy food and they have a commissary. Which, honestly, for some of the crimes that some of the guys in there did, like, they probably shouldn't be granted a commissary. But I don't know. I mean, they'd probably go insane if they didn't have a commissary. Because the food is just so bad. I don't know. It's 2024 or whatever, I guess. I don't really know. It's just another way for them to make money, I guess. I shouldn't say that those guys shouldn't have it, I guess. I really don't know. But I got pretty fat because of the commissary. And because I chose to eat from there. But it's kind of hard not to. It was kind of hard not to. It's kind of hard not to eat from the commissary because the food that they give you normally is just so bad. Like, it's just so, like arguably it's low in calories, mostly. But it's like all the food's watered down somehow, you know. But anyway, it's because I was like overly socialized as a kid. In jail, I definitely just had an easier time, like, getting along, I guess. I don't know if I'd call it getting along so much as, like, I don't really know, like, just just socializing, I guess. Like just because I was socialized as a kid, like I was able to socialize in jail. Where like a lot of the guys in there, like some of them were in there for like just drug dealing, which is really bad, but it's kind of like the lesser crime that I noticed. But I don't know. It just, I guess I don't know where I was going with this train of thought. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm able to hold a conversation, you know, which a lot of people aren't nowadays. And I noticed the people who weren't really able to come up with things to talk about in jail, or like who weren't able to focus on like a card game, usually got into like a fight. Maybe not usually, but more likely, you know. And I don't know. I wasn't really afraid to fight. Like I just didn't want to get another charge. Like I was more afraid of like getting another charge than I was the actual fighting. And I didn't want to get my teeth knocked out by anybody stronger than me. But I wasn't super afraid of that, you know. But part of the reason why I wasn't afraid of that was because I socialized so well with the people there in there. That's not to say that I really like get along with criminals. They're like the only ones who talk to anybody. Like most people just stick to themselves and their families and stuff. I'm not talking about people in jail, but just like most people like in the civilian world, which is the world which I currently inhabit now. Like they just don't really talk to, they talk to each other, but not like other people, you know. And that's how it is with criminals too. But if you're white and you know and you're in jail and there's other white people, you're probably gonna talk to them. Which I didn't join any gangs or anything, but yeah, they probably just assumed if I went to prison I would join a gang, but I probably wouldn't. Just because I don't really agree with, I don't really know. It's kind of hard to talk about. Like I'm a homeless guy, you know. Like I went homeless for like 4 months in winter, and I only stopped being homeless because I thought I might die in the cold, which I probably wouldn't have, but I was taking a precaution, just judging it on the fly or whatever. And so I ended up going back to my dad's place. Ended up working at his wheel factory. So yeah, I ended up working at his wheel factory for a little while. That was after I was homeless or whatever. Yeah, it's just sort of awkward to talk about all this stuff. Yeah, I don't know, I just feel really awkward talking about this stuff. But yeah, I've never really done well in like a setting like jail where there's that many people to talk to, like where they're like that loud. Like I know I just said I did well in there, but I didn't do well in some other ways. Like mentally, I got sort of like scared, I guess. I know I said I wasn't that scared, but like I got pretty scared towards the end of it just because, I don't know. Like, I was just afraid of getting charges, but I wasn't afraid of fighting that much. I don't really know. It was just so. It was just so hard to be in there after a while, you know, because, like, I don't know, just some of those guys would go nuts, you know. Like, some of the fighting got pretty intense. And there's one guy, I don't know, like, they would jump up and down the tables and they were watching, like, NFL and stuff in jail. And getting, like, pumped up about that, and, like, that's fine, but, like, man, I just got, like, really, like, I don't know, I was just on edge. Just certain people in there that made me on edge, and I don't know, like, I can fight, but I didn't want to, and it just got kind of, like, crazy towards the end. Towards the end of my stay there, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, I just spent all day walking around in circles, like, around the, like, tables that they had in there. And just to lose weight. And I was losing weight towards the end of my stay there. But I don't know. Like, just walking around a table for 8 hours a day is just kind of annoying. So obviously I was losing weight. Plus I wasn't eating all my meals or whatever. I was handing them over to this one guy named Tuna. The guy's name was Tuna because he ate a bunch of tuna in prison or whatever. And he wasn't fat, but he had a lot of loose skin from being, like, overweight. And he was just a con artist. Like, he was probably the least, like, I guess you could say sinful. The least, like, law-breaking of them. Like I think he just wrote a blank check or something. I don't know, but he was just, like, a con man. And arguably he wasn't really, like, that good of a con man, so, like, obviously he wasn't that bad. And I probably talked to him the most, to be honest. Maybe. I don't know, I talked to a lot of people in there, but not about anything important, but Tuna was one of the guys who I talked to every day. And I was just handing my meals after every meal. Like, I just handed him, like, the rest of it. And he didn't really gain any weight because he was working out so much. So I figured he was good and needed the food just to gain muscle. But I wasn't working out. I just wanted to lose weight. So I was just doing cardio. Plus, I'm just kind of muscular naturally, so I don't really worry about it too much. But I definitely should worry about it, but I don't. Because I don't know. Like, I'm not the biggest guy out there, but anyway. What else happened in jail? I don't know, I had guys looking out for me in there too. Like, I don't really know. But I never joined a gang or anything. I just was in jail. Anyway, I'll be right back. So, yeah, jail was, not that easy, but it definitely was easier at the beginning. And then it became more difficult as time went on, as you would expect. There were moments when I would there's like a buzzer that you could call the cops on if you needed anything. So I would use the buzzer and tell them I was hearing voices so that they'd put me in solitary confinement. After like a 2 day, or not 2 day hold, after like a few day hold in this one room where they put everybody who had mental illness, and then they put them in solitary for a while. And then you went back to the regular cells. Anyway, and all these cells were open in the one unit that I was in. Yeah. So I would do that I don't know, every few weeks just to get away from the noise, because everybody was pretty loud during the day. And I just couldn't, just the pure, it was, I would lie about hearing voices. I wasn't actually lying because I was hearing the voices of the people of the other prisoners. Not in a weird way, but just as they were talking. And so I was sort of not lying, but I was lying, because I was making them think voices in my head, but no, I meant I just said that to get out of there because the volume was too high. It was just I just couldn't stand the volume. Anyway, that's purely the reason why I lied about that. Yeah. And then they would have a church group, like a Bible study group, every week, and I would sometimes go. And that's when I started believing in Jesus Christ and God. I grew up really, very, arguably very, very religious compared to most people. So I grew up very religious, and I was an atheist throughout most of my 20s, but I came back to Jesus Christ in jail. Partially because it was just so hard in jail, but also because it just makes sense to me. And also, when I was homeless, I had thoughts about God. I guess it started when I was homeless, and then I started reading the Bible in jail. But yeah. But I sort of miss being home. Anyway, getting away from the topic of jail. I sort of miss being homeless just because of the freedom of it. I was definitely more free to I don't know, just drink, eat, whatever I wanted to, and then to walk around. I guess there's not really much else to do. But if you panhandle enough money, you can purchase what any normal person can purchase. But I just use it on food and drink, water. I was very healthy when I was homeless, and now I got really fat in jail, and then I'm 260 pounds now. And I'm going to go down to 190 or less. And I've just started that journey. But, that weight loss journey, I mean, But yeah, it's just I was very like lean when I was homeless, and I looked really good. Like I took really I took really good care of my health while I was homeless, and I would shave at homeless shelters. I was just really like, I don't know, adept at like taking care of my health when I was homeless. And if I went homeless again, I think I would lose the weight pretty quick because I'd be walking around so much. But I'd probably take breaks from walking around. Like I'd probably sit down a lot and take breaks because it's kind of hard to walk around at this weight. But I would probably also walk around quite a bit. Like, I bet I'd hit like at least 5 miles a day. And depending on what you eat, like if you just eat like chicken, like if you just go to like, if you just eat like beans or chicken or whatever, like if you go to, what do you call them? Those places that distribute food for the homeless. Like, if you go to one of those places, like the missionaries, if you go to one of those places, then you'll get like food that won't really fatten you up that much. And you'll stay pretty lean. Like, there were a lot of Salvation Armies, and I went to this one place called Mary Brennan in New York City when I was homeless. Anyway, I kind of miss being homeless just because I was in shape and I stayed in shape and I kept care of myself, and it was just easier to do when I was walking around that much. When you're like confined in a room, like an apartment building or my mom's house or something like that, like it's hard to you have to like make time for exercise. And it's not like a complete like lifestyle change like when you're homeless. Like when you're homeless, it's like you're a hunter-gatherer almost, except that you accept donations, money and food. But it's almost like besides that, it's like you're like, I guess you're just gathering. It's like you're a gatherer, You just gather resources, eat, walk around, and just sit around. And I wasn't really depressed. Like I felt sort of like peaceful. It was sort of peaceful. It was difficult, but it was also sort of peaceful. But yeah, that's another reason why I know that I was over socialized as a kid, because I was like quiet the entire time that I was homeless. And another reason why I know I'm over socialized is because I always avoid like conflict. Like no matter what, like not even just because I was in jail, like I just like normally I avoid conflict. I've noticed like most people aren't that afraid to get into an argument or show like anger or distrust, or like a lot of people show their emotions pretty vividly on their face, and I do that too, but like I stay like calm and I talk to people, like I just like usually I'm like calm and I don't like show my emotions too much. This video might be kind of an exception to that. because I don't know, there's nobody to impress, I guess, when you're making a video for YouTube, because there's nobody in front of you that you can visibly see, you know. So I don't know. Yeah, this video is definitely an exception to that, but like, I don't know, I just I don't get that angry or anything, you know, typically. But I guess I don't have that much to be frustrated about. But even when I had like a job that could have frustrated me, like I just forego anger, and I just try to intelligently solve problems, you know? Like even in jail, like I would just sort of intelligently like do like when I would order from the commissary over the phone instead of buying from the store that Asian guy had, like I would just I don't know, I calmly learned how to do that even though it was very difficult. At least kind of difficult. And I just calmly did that. And, you know, I just calmed myself down, figured it out, and didn't get angry, you know. I don't know. I can think of, like, examples like that. Like, okay, like I built this room for my mom's coffee house. Because my mom owns a coffee house. I built this storage room in the back with my dad. I remember I just calmly learned how to build that. And like today, like wasn't exactly sure how to put on a new bike seat for my bike, but I just calmly like just looked at it, solved the problem intelligently, and just I had a socket wrench, and I got a socket wrench, and then loosened it, and then whatever, you know, just. Like I can think of numerous examples where I don't really get that frustrated or where I'm not frustrated at all. In fact, making these videos makes me more frustrated than anything. Like, actually going out and, like, doing work or getting something, like, solved, like, doesn't really frustrate me. I don't really like to, like, talk about, like, what I've been through or anything. But there you go, I just did. So, I guess I'll end the video here. Anyway, just to wrap that up, I'm a lonely guy. Lonely guys don't have as many issues with other guys usually. I've been to jail. Ex-criminal, but not a criminal anymore, so just a civilian. And then ex-homeless. And I guess I'm just mentally ill. But it doesn't affect me that much, so just to wrap that up, like, I don't know. I'm pretty normal. Like, if you talk to me, like, Like I was the guy in high school who would, like, talk to pretty much everybody. And everybody knew me. Or most people knew me in high school. And so I just would talk to, like, almost everybody. And yeah, I just got along with most people. But maybe I was somewhat kind of quiet sometimes. Not usually. Like, just fairly socialized. sometimes it maybe was a bit weird. Like I would get kind of loud and like just make funny jokes and stuff and kind of Juster Max or whatever. Some people call that Juster Maxing in the black pill community. I'm not really in the black pill community. I just know what it is because one of my friends is. I already made a friend. I made a friend in the black pill community. Anyway, and that guy arguably didn't have that many friends. I guess he does now, though. That was just good. I don't know, maybe I'll keep talking. No, I'm going to end the video. In summary, I'm just some guy who's... I don't know, I'm just some guy. See you later.